again, a proposition is on the table about a good work that could be done. Someone says, unless you have an honest conversation about race, this will do more harm than good, no matter how well-intentioned you are. Lots of projects, interventions that could have made a difference have fallen by the wayside. That one, I've seen it with my own eyes, and lots of other people have seen it as well. So what I've been struggling with is I've had my arguments with the anti-racists. You know, the people who say if you're not an anti-racist, you're a racist, which I think turns out to be actually quite a foolish statement. The situation is much more nuanced than that. But what I've discovered is really there's no talking there. An honest conversation about race. After the third time I heard it, I went and signed up for one that they wanted me to take. Okay, so what did I experience? I experienced 3 days of people explaining to me how, as a white person, I benefit from racism whether I want to or not. That's true. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is that it wasn't conversational at all. It wasn't an honest conversation about anything. It was a series of diatribes that myself and other people were on the receiving end of. So I decided a while ago that I don't argue with anti-racists anymore. Life is too short. But what I am trying to do is think of a way to revitalize the conversation about race that doesn't just put it on that polarized path right from the start. And about 2 years ago, I started doing some thinking and some work on that here. And I had a wonderful call from my colleague here, Hasan Davulcu. Hasan is the, he said I shouldn't do this, but Hasan is a brilliant computer engineer. He's the chief information officer of the group called Artists that you've seen mentioned here, and also the group called Magi, also mentioned here. He's a very generous colleague to me in this project that we're doing, which has to do with trying to begin to map out what race relations actually look like in the U.S., starting with social media. So I'll turn it over to you, Hasan.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Let's see if I can do this thing. So this is a publication that just came out this month with my colleague Mike. We are very proud of. It's programmable, it's humanizing, and it's AI. And you will see that my final slide says programmable, peacemaker, AI. I think hopefully we'll together get there and then we'll celebrate it. So the way we go about focusing and collecting a context is by basically coming up with a bunch of hashtags. And these hashtags should capture the key issues, key actors, key movements, key trends, and it doesn't need to be complete. Because if you just eyeball the Twitter and get 10, 15 hashtags, and you go and collect that data, and then you check to see what other hashtags co-occur with those hashtags, in one iteration you get a pretty good, decent list. And these hashtags, the Black Lives Matter, fight racism, stop killings, white supremacists, is basically BLM. All lives matter, white lives matter, blue lives matter, is basically, we call them ALM. So that gives you a sense of two camps. And in this context, it's ALM and BLM, but in the Israel-Palestine context, it's the Palestinians and the Israelis. And in the vaccine context, it's the vaccine deniers and the pro-vaccine people. And in the climate change, it's the climate change deniers and the climate change believers. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward. And that's why I have been so generous to Mike because, you know, ALM, BLM is just a placeholder for us. You know, we can do, our goal is to do any conflict that involves two parties or maybe three parties and maybe four, but that's about it. You know, it doesn't get worse than that. So then there's the issues, which is the riots and the inequality and the lynching and the bigotry and the slavery and the reparations, and then obviously the races in America, the blacks, the whites, the Latinos, the natives, and the man and the woman and the person and the kid and the MAGA. And you know, we wanted to see how the religion seeps into race, if at all it does. So we're also throwing the Protestant, Baptist, Catholic, Christian, and yeah. So basically that's how you collect the data. And then once you put these hashtags and you ask Twitter and you pay them some money and you say, give me last 3 months of data, you get 15 million tweets, 3.7 million users. This is just 1 month. This many posts, this many codes, this many replies under this post, and this many shares. Sharing is caring. Sharing means John posts something, I hit the share button, everybody sees that I just verbatim repeated John. And everybody can see that I just repeated John. So it's the most violent form of agreement on social media, to share or to like and maybe to follow him eventually. How do we know that I am following John? Follow data is very difficult to get, but if I am seen retweeting John over and over again, I'm obviously a follower of John. Otherwise, how would I know what John is saying unless I'm following him? So following is implicit in the data. So this is the daily volumes, which is the first thing that we do. And daily volumes point at key events in the data. And in this month, it was just the 2023 Texas shooting at a mall. It's a mass shooting event. It's the shooter was a Hispanic person. But he self-radicalized himself into white supremacy, and he went out killing on behalf of white supremacy. It was mind-boggling, right? It's a very interesting case. So anyway, you get once you plot all the shares, you get this picture, and now the question is, how do I disentangle this? How do we make sense out of this, right? So this is where social science is going to begin to seep in, okay? So how do we reduce that picture to this picture? We look at the identity-fused ones. Identity-fused subsets of those communities that we plotted in different sets, okay? And we added some criteria to make sure that these people are fused with a community, because we only use the edge. Like if you just like or share somebody one time, we drop all those edges. We say you have to share and like that person more than one time, so that we know you are following him and you are fused with him. And if you only keep those edges that passes this threshold, then the picture boils down to this. Okay, so we still have the same communities here. You know, there is these 3 communities here, these 3 communities here, and this 1 community there. So now, and we know that all these edges are significant. Okay, and the communities are significant at this point. They are really fused with each other. This is the same picture. Instead, I just got rid of the dots and I draw circles, and the size of the circle represents the size of the community. So we still got our 3 communities here, another 3 here, and 1 there, okay? So now, who are these people? I mean, we strongly suspect them to be ALM, BLM, But let's develop a strategy to name them. Okay? So in order to come up with who they are, we do something cool, which is like we break every single one of them into their factions. Every community is broken into their factions that are identity fused, so we can go into each faction and figure out who they are. Are these ALM people or BLM people or somebody else? Okay? So how do we do this? Okay? This is where what we call camp coding, this says camp coding. Camp coding is happening here. So camp coding, this number of communities, takes me half an hour to do. And how do we do it? I go into each community and I ask my team, give me the most viral 200 messages that resonated wildly within that community, galvanize them. Top 200. And I swear to you, by the time you look at the first, second, and the third tweet, you can tell whether these guys are ALM or BLM types. Okay? So, if you want to be more, if you want to do more with this, if you want to use this process to train a number of people, to uplift them so that they learn to listen together and understand together. Imagine I bring into a room 4 experts from the ALM camp, 4 experts from the BLM camp, and I ask them to, as a panel, first each one does by themselves. If they all agree on everything, there is no problem. If there's a disagreement on who this community is, invite them to come together, look at those, top 10 tweets, and decide together, reach a consensus. Who are they? And if they cannot reach a consensus, I'm going to leave this community out because it's very suspicious. We have to look at this very carefully. Why are these people not able to reach a consensus, right? Okay, so the consensus coding comes out like this, which means now I have ALM, BLM labels everywhere. Now let me just highlight something interesting that happens. These 2 communities here that speak like All Lives Matter people are British subjects. How do I know? Because their tweets is all London and UK and the issues in UK. And this community here is very interesting. It's the BLM, but the Latino crowds in America that resonate wildly with the Spain, motherland. Okay, so they talk about Barcelona, the soccer teams, and the racism in the sports in the Barcelona and the Spain and this team and that team. It's a mix of Spanish people and Hispanics in America. Okay, so but still this is ALM, this is BLM for all purposes. So now we got our labels. So this is tremendous, okay, because now we got the camps and we got the polarization. So there is this side here, that side here. This is where our responsibility shows up. When we see this and people are polarized and there are not many cross edges, this is the beginning of the trouble. This is where we need to start building capacity. God forbid, if this starts slipping down towards a civil war or a racial war in America, because of the work that we did here, building the capacity, connecting people, teaching them how to listen to each other, teaching them how to understand each other. I'm not changing anybody's camps. I just want people to learn to listen and understand each other's issues, values. Let's just get intimate. And let's figure out what is the common ground that we share, okay? As well as our differences. And I will tell you where peace happens, in my opinion. Peace happens when you bring together Palestinians and Israelis in a room and you ask them to do thousands of micro decisioning tasks, such as, is truth a positive thing? Everybody agrees, yes. Is lying a bad thing? Yes. Is life important? Yes. Is death a good thing? No. Simple micro decisions. You want them to do thousands of this together. And every now and then they're going to run into an issues. They will make them go, let's think about this. And I swear to you, peace and understanding happens when they are in a room, not because they are saying something, but because they are sharing the silence of thinking together. This is why Zoom doesn't work. Everybody was asking me, what is the difference between a face-to-face meeting and a Zoom meeting? Okay? And you can't tell the difference. Until one day it dawned on me, it's the silences we share while we are pondering. That silence, that joint pondering, is what builds the bridge. Seeing the other person worry about the same thing that you worry about, you start seeing the humanity in each other. I swear to you, it's not the stuff we say, it's the silences we share. I swear to you. Okay. So, there's one more thing going on here. The guys who are not identity fused and the gals, they form this circle. And I'm not sure if we can move this, but these are the undecideds. The others who are not fused yet. They are lurking, they are sharing, liking, following, but they are not in either BLM or ALM identity fused camps yet. They are undecided. They are persuadable, and we can still shape this pupil. This pupil is our number one target. There are two more targets that I'm going to show you, but these are the ones that I think we should save first. And we'll talk about what saving means. Saving basically means you don't want them to fall into the anti-racist barrier camp or the all lives matter barrier camp, which rejects the other side and calls them full of it. Okay? We don't want them to fall into those buckets, because that just ramps up polarization. And that's where we fail. So we usually fail much earlier than the war happens. Okay? So, what got us to start making progress? We knew about the undecideds before, because we knew about identity fusion. But what we didn't know, that I learned from Mike and Harvey, because John shared an abstract of a paper that they published that they were going to present in a CRIC conference about the barrier bounds and the barrier crossers. And I'm like, what is this? Because it's a network intelligence concept. I think it's the strongest network intelligence concept. Barrier-bound leaders identified as those who seek to advance their group's interests, just like everybody else, by working solely or primarily within the group itself. All the likes, all the shares, all the follows, always their own camp. You don't see them sharing or liking a single message from the other camp. Not a single one. So there are barrier-bound leaders on this camp, there are barrier-bound leaders on the other camp, and I think that's our problem. The remaining leaders, whole different kind of a creature. Okay, there are two items for them. These are obviously our favorites, Mike and ours. So they're identified as those who understand through observation and conversation and the shared silences, what leaders of other groups seek to achieve, and reciprocally are clear with other leaders about their own interests and priorities. Just because I'm talking to the leader from the other camp, I'm not giving up neither my interest nor my priority. I'm not a traitor to my cause. I'm talking to them just to understand what their causes are. And so every now and then they say something that I find common ground, and yes, I like and share it. That makes me a barrier crosser leader. Okay? And it is risky, and it is requires sacrifices and taking risks, and sometimes it puts a crosshair on your head too. Because there are barrier bounds who hate the other side, and you are seen sharing what they said, that pretty much in their mind makes you part of the other side in their minds, and at that point, probably your blood is halal to them. And they say it. They say, kill this guy. Okay? So this is not a joke. It's not a walk in the park. This happens before the war breaks out. During peacetime, these people take risks.
Sorry, can I just get clarification? Barrier crossing, do they ever share to demonstrate that
No, it's not demonstration. It's common ground.
it has to be common ground?
They would never share to demonstrate anything.
That they're wrong?
No. It's like John says something, and I'm a Muslim and I like it. And now the other Muslims see me liking what a Christian person just
Because
said.
it has to be a like or a share, and that's only a positive thing. Okay.
Alright, so they were primarily for their group's interest, these guys. They're not traitors. By engaging with members of other groups to, look, pull power. It's a power play. They're still after their own interests. Resources in identifying common grounds to scope, now they're planning, and sequencing, which is planning. Tasks to pursue, again, common interest, because that's all you can do with the other side. You can't pursue your own interest with the other side, right? But you can pursue common interests. Okay? Executing cooperative tasks and jointly evaluating the effectiveness. Yeah, very realistic. Okay. Okay, good. So now what this does on a linear one-dimensional scale, it gives us the reality, thank God, is not like this. This is an idealization, okay? Just a conceptualization. Reality is much more hopeful than this, and I will show you why. But as a concept, you can think of the barrier bounds as the first bucket or a cup. Barrier crossing BLMs, barrier crossing means every now and then they like or share something. So barrier crossing cup on the ALM side, barrier bound cup on the ALM side. And you can't be a barrier crosser and a barrier bound simultaneously, you are always one of them. Okay? So there are 4 cups. These cups are joint cups. There is always flow in every direction. Nothing is static here. Okay? It's swishing all the time, based on events and trends and sensitivities. Okay? However, there is a promise and potential here. The promise and potential is, I can give you control buttons here. You can say, I want everyone from here to get to there. Run the pump, this pump, which is going to be the AI pump, that like sucks all the water here and fills this up. And you can train, oh my God, AI is getting better every day. You can get dangerously good at this. I mean, shit. So you can empty all of this into here. You can empty all of that into here. And if you just want to convert everybody to Christianity, you can do that too. And by you, I mean you program the AI, you come up with the best programmed AI, and it does what it does. And you just make sure it's as effective as it can get. Okay? So now we're talking about joint cups, programming, which is like you're selecting what you want. How should you do this? you should do this together with the other side. Don't go selfish on it, okay? Because Russians go selfish on it, as Scott says, by running 1 million bots. You know what the Russians do? It's so easy. They try to empty the barrier crosser camps. And they run the pump in the opposite direction. I want everybody from here to get to there because, oh my God, the LGBT that the other people are doing is like destroying my family. Like my son is going to become gay tomorrow because of the Democrat propaganda. Like they run stuff like that all day long. And all you need to do is like feel the fear and hit the like button or share button. And before you know, by the time they push couple issues, you find yourself solidly grounded here and tough. We just lost the person and polarization has become more polarized. Okay. So you can run it positive or negative way. And AI doesn't care. You just tell it what you want it to do and it will do it. Okay, and that's what happens day in, day out. Now, here's what we did. I wanted to see where are these barrier-bound leaders and where are the barrier-crossing leaders. Where are they? So what we did, we turned every community, remember C1, C5, C6, which is ALM? C5, C6, C1. This is sorted. C1 has the largest density of barrier crossers. C6 is in the middle ground in terms of their density of barrier crossers. And C5 is the least density of barrier crossers, which means majority barrier bound. It's an echo chamber. We call this a toxic echo chamber. They just repeat each other and galvanize each other all day, all night long. These ghosts. Oh my God, big pharma, authoritarian this or fascist that. It's just they're galvanizing each other in these bubbles. Because there is nobody else and no information comes in there. There's nobody across it. It's just them. But here's the good news. The good news is following. No matter how hard we try to sort this, you take a step back, you look at the picture, and you say, oh my God, there's a barrier crosser leadership here, barrier crosser leadership here, barrier crosser leadership here, at the top level. And all these people worship him. He's an asset. And he's here, and he's here, and he's here, and he's like, yeah, these guys dominate almost this way. So when I came into the conference today, when Manas saw me, she asked me like, oh, are we going into a nuclear war? Are we going to annihilate each other? And I confidently said to Manas, don't worry. I think we're okay. And the reason is, I see the Greens not only on the ALM hierarchy, and these are the top guys. I see the Greens, there are big reds, but I see the Greens on the BLM side too. These were the 4 camps, BLM, C4, C7, C2, C3. It's sorted from the highest density of barrier crossers versus the lowest density. But really, they're in every community at the highest levels of leadership. And you go level after level, and there are barrier crossing representatives at every level in every community. That's why I feel good about us. I think we are going to do okay because there are among us, everywhere, any random subset you pull, there are barrier crossing people who are engaging, listening, understanding, hearing, without giving up their positions. So these bridges are there, but our job is to turn more of these people into greens. In fact, humanity will reach enlightenment when every node here is green.
But not all greens are the same.
No.
No, I mean
they are barrier crossing leaders.
No, but it could be a small common ground could be small or common ground could be big.
We can get into the details of it. I agree with you. I would like to turn all of this into green. Because we have AI and we're trying to figure out what to do with AI. To me, this is the best challenge. Okay? So here they are. These are barrier crossing leaders. On the other side, the BLM side. So, Network intelligence is one side of the coin. Narrative intelligence is the other side of the coin. And that's it. There's nothing else we need to worry about. If we can figure out the network, which we did, thanks to identity fusion and barrier crossing, barrier bound leadership concepts. So now let's get to the narratives. Okay? So I'm going to show you top 3 narratives from the ALM and the BLM camp. These narratives, AI read every message and AI come up with the narrative, the members of each narrative. AI come up with the claim. AI come up with the summary. AI also come up with the logical signature, which allows us to understand for the first time what the AI, the lines among which the AI is thinking about to cluster or group these narratives. Okay? This is in English. And a kindergarten student can deal with this. Because this has simple structure. The structure is very simple. Every narrative is a collection of bunch of patterns. Each pattern is a bunch of actors, bunch of issues that is a threat on a bunch of values. Full stop. This narrative says the media, this is ALM, all lives matter, usually Republican people in America, okay? The media and political elites are using the white supremacy label to distract from border crisis and rising crime, even falsely applying it to non-white individuals, our guy, to fuel division and control the narrative. Because remember, this is a Hispanic guy, he is neo-Nazi and white supremacist and doing mass shootings in malls. So, and what is the signature of this? The signature says either white supremacist or white supremacist plus a bunch of issues, racism, violence, Latino, white privilege, plus bunch of values. America, lying, facts, world, children, kids, Christian family evidence, hell, parent, kids, life, lies. Pretty simple to understand, right? Now, here, white supremacist shooting and lies, proofs, order, diversity, truth, etc. So basically, each narrative is programmable because now we have logical signatures. The logical signature says either this or this and this or this or this or this or this and this or this or this or that. That's it. So it's pretty understandable. Here's the other one. Democrats have used systemic racism and black voters for political gain, while white Americans are now the primary victims of racism. That's another narrative. There's probably 800 tweets behind this. We know those tweets. We know their tweeters, and we know the signatures as well. Okay? Next one says, Democrats are complicit in rising crime and violence while unjustly targeting Christian and Republican groups as threats to America. Which Christian and which Republicans? Well, January 6th comes to mind. Okay. So, this is the top 3 narratives in ALM. My colleague here has, from the ALM camp, the complete list of AI detected. ALM has 20 narratives. That there is power of data behind these things. 20. And I challenge anyone, including every computer scientist in Oxford and Cambridge, to come up with their top narratives using their algorithms. And let's figure out like who has the best algorithm for automatically using the AI to come up with the narratives. Because with an AI narrative reader of 7 million messages into 20 narratives that's programmable and understandable, you all of a sudden become the single man with the one seeing eye in a crowd of blinds. Because nobody can read 14 million messages and cluster them into 20 groups, you know, with the power of the, you know. So these are the BLM top narratives. America is a racist country with racist leaders, which is what Mike calls these guys anti-racists. America is a racist country with racist leaders, where systemic racism and white nationalism are embedded in the society, and those who deny it are complicit in the harm to Black, Latino, Asian, indigenous, and LGBT communities. This is the first narrative. MAGA Republicans are undermining law enforcement and fostering violence, while systemic racial injustice continues to affect marginalized communities, as seen in the case of George Floyd, which is basically America, America, violence, murder, terrorism, Christian democracy, God, nation, family, love. It's like I'm repeating Scott. But now we have an AI that thinks and talks like Scott. And I like that. Because even though Scott is very healthy and may God bless him with infinite lives, if God forbid if we lose him, we need something, right, that reads and thinks like Scott. Okay, so this is America is a racist country with institutions that allow white men to kill black men without consequences. Why? Well, check out the murder of Jordan Neely in New York City subway by Daniel Perry uncharged. I mean, it's this event here where this guy jumped onto this guy and killed him. Because I don't know what the black guy was doing. He was unarmed though.
He was psychotic.
Yeah, psychotic, poor guy, mental health. Okay? So anyway, now, 95% of the messages have the power of the data to summarize them into programmable narratives, patterned programmable narratives. Programmability is important because we can use the patterns to design rules that say, oh my God, if you see this pattern coming from this target, it means this narrative. I want you to strike them with that narrative coming from the credible to that audience barrier crosser. And now we're building bridges. The moment they start liking what the AI promotes through credible barrier crossers, we are pulling them into our camp. Remember the motor that was sucking the water and all, right? Okay, so now the solution, we figured out the problem. The solution is the barrier crossing, leadership, and messaging. Now, barrier crossers are not angels. They do share with the barrier boss. So not every message that comes from barrier crosser is a barrier crossing message. We found that in the race relations data today, only less than 5% are barrier crossing messages which manages to resonate in both camps. Like 500 likes and shares here and 500 likes and shares there. Okay? Only 5%. Our job is to beef this up. Okay? So, what are the general characteristics of barrier crossing messaging? So first of all, messages shared across partisan lines by both camps, ALM and BLM, is the first criteria. They are infrequent, like less than 5%, and represent a small subset of overall communications. Hence, I can't even run the AI algorithm because the power of the data is not behind it to lead to patterns. Okay? So, you know what we do? We get the most viral 2,000 messages, and my students go one by one, read each message and throw it into a bucket, if it's useful for us. We do this today by hand. One by one. Because that's how valuable and precious they are. A message that comes from a barrier crossing leader that manages to resonate in bulk comes. 300 likes here, 300 likes there. That to me is more important than gold. Usually they are global focused. Global focus is nice, right? It's safer. Often centered on issues that are not exclusively tied to the US, allowing for a broader, less divisive appeal. It's easy. Or they are common good themes. Related to US issues, they emphasize universally recognized values such as justice, safety, equality, fairness. Common ground. Nobody is going to disagree with justice and fairness, okay? Neutral framing. They are not toxic. This is not toxic. It doesn't contain no keyword like MAGA or the white supremacist. Like the moment you see it, you know it's like, oh my God, this is so toxic. Okay? So messages maintain neutrality, avoid direct alignment with specific partisan agendas, slogans, labels, the stereotypes, ideologies, making them palatable to both sides. That's why we go 2,000 messages one by one. Coded. I think panels should do this. Panels of people from both sides, random subsets, small, bring them together, get them to do this together, and they're going to learn so much about themselves and each other. It's very enlightening. First one, global focus, anti-Semitic messages. Bam, 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 bam. Resonates in both sides. Anti-Semitism, because these people, their issue is racism. And anti-Semitism is also racism. And it's common ground. Just like you don't want blacks to be subject to racism or whites to be subject to racism, you also don't want any Jewish person to be subject to racism. It resonates in both camps. I will put the AI behind this. Black World War heroes. It's not only the white people who went and fought and died for the nation, these people did it too. It's the regiment that fought in both World War I and World War II, completely black regiment. Okay, and they are the, so basically non-controversial, shared respect, unity and diversity. It was the 369th Infantry Regiment. It's all black men who went and fought for us and died. So that resonates on both camps. And so is this. Justice and fairness related to it. Basically says, there's no place in America for racism, injustice, and unfairness. Get the heck out of here. It resonates in both camps. So now the programming. This is the final slide. I hope I'm less than 10 minutes. Good. This is our last slide. And notice, right? I dropped the humanizing, right? Because we have to do this if we are serious about the peace. Peace requires maintenance. Otherwise, we hit the crisis point, like Gabriela said, when we have no capacity because we never build it, and it slips into violence because you got a missile from the other side or 300 lunatics from the other side that come and kill 50 people, 50 of your people, and now you're full of revenge, legitimately so. You go and annihilate them and all their brothers and families. Because we did nothing. There's no capacity. We just slipped into it. Because we ignored the polarization while it was staring us. And we never built the capacity. We don't know the narratives, we don't know the networks, we know nothing. So now, this is very easy and I'll stop. So we lined up the ALM and BLM narrative that is sharing the common themes, and then we start programming the barrier crossing themes and messages right there. So now AI's job is so easy. When he sees this or she, the AI, oops, it produces this message through a credible to the target audience messenger, or detects it. It doesn't need to generate fake messages. It simply detects the resource, that should be dropped into that bubble so the awareness rises, thanks to the likes and shares that they're going to engage. And if they don't engage, we optimize our AI, so next time it does its thing, it gets engagement. I mean, this is going to be a long-term project to perfect this, okay? But I think we got the basics in place, and that's where I think I'll stop.
It's a how. It's a very complex how. I'm running all the time just to keep him in sight, let alone keep up with him. But I hope you can feel some of the energy that we're feeling about this. But the why. I just like to read this for you to convey why this matters in my mind, or to me. This is something that Dr. King wrote in Christmas of 1962. When the desegregation process is 100% complete, the human relations dimension of our nation will still be monumental unless we launch now the parallel thrust of the integration process. In the context of what our national community needs, desegregation alone is empty and shallow. We must always be aware that our ultimate goal is integration, and that desegregation is only a first step on the road to the good society. Integration is creative and is therefore more profound and far-reaching than desegregation. Integration is the positive acceptance of desegregation and the welcomed participation of all in the total range of human activities. Integration is genuine, interpersonal, intergroup doing. And 6 years later, he was dead. So, questions?
Guys, don't kill me in 6 years. I haven't said any of these things. It's Martin. Who is it? Who said it?
Okay.
So, forgive me, because processing all this to me is very, very new, and well outside what I'm accustomed to thinking about. So I'm trying to comprehend as well as reflect critically. But it does seem to be predicated on a number of assumptions about what is going on with what you're achieving with barrier crossing and the likes and the reposting and the so forth. And that's what I don't know. I mean, what is liking, really, when you think about it? Do these things, how does it move in any way people's thinking? And that's
good question.
That's what I don't know. But I think that what you're doing is predicated on certain assumptions about...
So, quick answer, just to fill up a gap with my understanding, because this is all practice, right? So it starts with a like. Then, like, nobody sees that you liked it. You like it, John sees that you liked it. Nobody else sees it. Share is a bit stronger. Share, everybody that follows you sees that you shared what John said. It's next level game. And by the time you see 2 shares, you know that I am following John. So it's a strong signal. So
I'm changing my mind.
And followership is the currency on social media. Whether you like it or not, the way it works is the number of followers.
But maybe I haven't moved an inch in my thinking.
You did actually.
Yeah.
You did.
Let me pick up on this, because one of the difficulties we sometimes have is thinking individually and thinking, well, there could be a person who thinks this or thinks that and thinks a different thing and so on. But when you start working politically and you're communicating with large numbers of people, then it doesn't matter if there's a few people this way or that have an individually different way of operating. The mass of people operate. So, for example, before we got the current complexity of AI, when we were trying to do political campaigning at home in Northern Ireland, we didn't have a lot of expensive, sophisticated stuff. But you wanted to put out messages, for example, for older people. So, the Alliance Party will improve your pension. Okay? So how do you identify who are older people? Well, of course, you can go around and knock the doors, and then you put all that data in, and so on. But then we tried to see, were there other ways? Well, you could identify a very large proportion of them by looking at their names. If it was in the UK and they were women called Margaret or Elizabeth, 10 chances to 1, they were born in the late 1950s and through into the early 60s, and they were named after the Queen.
It's Jessica and Jennifer in America.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint the exact year of date of birth. Jessica and Jennifer.
So, of course, it's entirely possible that a woman gets named Margaret and she's actually born in 1975. But the fact that 1 or 2 go this way or that isn't important when you're dealing with a large number. And so that's one of the differences when you're thinking individually psychologically and when you're thinking.
But I'm not sure
largely.
that's not my point. My point is, so you're targeting correctly.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that that can't be achieved with this.
Yeah.
But what does it do to change the thinking? How do you know that somebody's now, I'm going to vote aligned?
Because when you start repeatedly sharing something, you actually take in the thing that you're sharing.
The
You don't
emotion at that point more than passion.
You don't keep sharing things that you completely disagree with, in the main.
What you're doing at that stage is you're just identifying the communication networks,
Yeah.
where information can flow and that people are absorbing it. Then, when you start playing around with the AI, you try to figure out which of those messages will actually move people. So you're constantly reprogramming the AI to see
Yeah.
what effects they have. You don't have that from the beginning. All you're doing at the beginning is
No,
like,
I appreciate that, but it's the moving people aspect of it that I don't quite grasp, because even reposting, it could be an affirmation of what they already believe. Not a
Richard,
shift.
let me answer your question. Say you are a barrier bound. You never in your life touch the message from the other camp of the BLM. All of a sudden, John puts up the World War II heroes, and you are a big World War II fan. You're like shocked. Oh my God, I thought it was all my white guys fighting and dying for me. Now you see a black man also fighting and dying. Lots of pictures. And your finger slips and you hit the like button or share it. At that point, you just become a barrier crosser. Because you did it.
Not shaking this hand.
Let me get.
That's how it happens, though.
Yeah, but we'll have to draw it to a close because we're borrowing from next time. But no, I just give you one example from my own experience, and one of the things that made me think about this question of barrier crossing. So I was having a bit of an argument one day, not surprisingly, with Dr. Paisley, and he said, "I see you've got a new logo." Which was true, we had kind of rebadged it. And the new badge was a play on the word A, and it was a bridge. And he said, "I see it has a bridge on it." And I said, "That's right, Dr. Paisley. You know what a bridge is?" he said. I said, "What's a bridge?" "It's something that goes over to the other side." That's what it is. And of course he was right. But it was being presented in a prejudicial way that said, and anybody who does that
He's a barrier bound.
is a traitor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, he's a barrier bound.
Absolutely barrier bound. No matter how much he would talk about, well, you know, I do constituency work for Catholics and all this kind of business. He was absolutely barrier bound.
Just like you, Richard.
Give me a chance. Anyway, I don't want to dominate.
Yeah, but let's say a very big thank you to both of us.